Okay, friends, let's go ahead and start. For those who like to recite the Namo Tassa and the three refuges. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. So good evening, friends, for this Wednesday evening sutta study. And we're continuing our study, look at the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, which is in the number 22 in the Digha Nikaya. And last week we went over the section on the six senses, consciousness and the six senses. And now the section tonight, we're going to cover the 7 factors of enlightenment. Now, as I've mentioned before, all of the 4 foundations of mindfulness, they follow a certain order, with mindfulness of the body coming first, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of the mind, and then this last section, the contemplation of the Dhamma. And even in the contemplation of the Dhamma, these different groups that we've been covering, the 5 hindrances, the 5 aggregates, the 6-fold sense sphere, and now the 7 factors of enlightenment, they also are given in that order for a purpose, and hopefully we'll be able to understand that as we go on. So now these 7 factors of enlightenment, they're called 7 factors of enlightenment because they've reached a certain degree of development. And we could say, well, these are just ordinary, 5 hindrances, or the mindfulness and investigation and so on. So there's, we find that in the Buddhist teaching, there are sort of mundane aspects and super mundane aspects. So anyway, the first factor of enlightenment is mindfulness. So, we've been practicing mindfulness all along, from the very beginning of mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of breathing, and so on, mindfulness of the feelings, mindfulness of the mind. And, that starts out with ordinary mindfulness. Concentration is, not very developed in the beginning. So that's why it's called, just mindfulness, ordinary mindfulness, because there's so many intervening thoughts and other hindrances that make that mindfulness of a low sort of degree. So anyway, having first contemplated the body, feelings, and mind states, all along one has been developing mindfulness, has been developing investigation and joy and so on, but at sort of a minimal levels. And of course, that's what motivates people to want to continue and practice. So anyway, these 7 factors of enlightenment, most of you probably already know them, at least by memory, or maybe have read them, but so I'm just going to mention them and then go over them in more detail. So the first one is mindfulness, as we've already mentioned. And then the second is the investigation of the Dhamma. That means you're investigating what you're mindful of. Whatever that object of mindfulness is, you investigate it. What is this? How does this arise? How does it cease? How does it stop arising in the future? Or how does it continue to arise in the future? These are the questions the Buddha always wanted us to investigate. And especially in terms of the 5 hindrances, right? Sense desire and the ill will and restlessness. How do these things arise? What am I doing in my life that causes these things to keep coming up? Because if you don't understand how they arise, then you're going to keep on doing them. So understanding how they arise then automatically shows you then what you need to do to get them to cease by stop doing the things that cause them to arise. Anyway, so that investigation of Dhamma is about understanding how these things arise, how they continue, how they cease, and how they cease coming in the future, or how they continue to be developed. So it involves, in the beginning, it involves some kind of intellectual or discursive contemplation. And so it involves a degree of thinking. Dhamma vichaya means, vichaya means thinking, and thinking about the Dhamma. But it's not a sporadic, erratic thinking or thinking about, unwholesome things. It's very directed thinking. So it's considered a very powerful tool. Now, a lot of popular meditation classes and so on, they think, or in other forms of meditation, they say, oh, you shouldn't think about anything. The mindfulness is just pure awareness. Well, it may be, but it's not a factor of enlightenment without investigation of Dhamma. Anyway, so investigation of Dhamma. And then that gives you energy. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and, go into detail with these factors of enlightenment. So again, mindfulness is that alert state of mind. And what makes it a factor of enlightenment is when you have gained a considerable degree of concentration and the hindrances have subsided enough that mindfulness becomes much, much brighter and clearer, and that you're able to, see more details of that object of the mindfulness. So it depends on the concentration. And being mindful helps you to gain the concentration. And as you gain concentration, that mindfulness becomes more clear. And this is how those two, mindfulness and concentration, continually, mutually support and increase each other. Because if you're not mindful of the hindrances, you're going to be totally always lost in one or the other of hindrances. And so even to gain concentration, you have to have the mindfulness, especially of the hindrances. But that means mindfulness of what is occurring in the moment, what is taking over your mind. You have to be alert. Because if it's not, you'll just be carried away and you'll never develop concentration. So that's why mindfulness is first. And as you're more mindful and more quickly can let go of the various hindrances and come back to stay refocused, that's how you develop the concentration. And then as you're able to stay focused on the object longer, then you're able to investigate it. So investigation depends on that mindfulness factor of enlightenment. That means being able to sustain the object of mindfulness in front of you long enough to investigate it. So that requires having reached a certain level of concentration. Now, a lot of people say, well, what level of concentration do you mean? Well, first jhana is ideal. And if a person reaches the first jhana, then the hindrances have subsided. And that object stays in front of the mind long enough that you can see the subtle details of it and you can contemplate it and understand something about it. Such as the meditator knows the enlightenment factor of mindfulness is present in me now. Or he knows it's not present in me now. So if the mind is 80% of the time going in and out of hindrances and so on, then it's not really established very much. But once you have gained the concentration, then you'll understand, this is the mindfulness factor of enlightenment factor of mindfulness, because it's in the moment. It's going from moment to moment. It's aware of whatever is predominantly arising or taking your attention through the six senses or any of the five aggregates. You can contemplate them. So to be a factor of enlightenment, it should be, if not, the first jhana, at least then probably momentary concentration or access concentration. But the first jhana is normally considered to be when they're quite developed. And then the joy, because, see, coming next is joy, piti sambojjhanga. So piti arises with the first jhana. That's why these things are connected. So it's because you've gotten the first jhana concentration, then this factor of piti, which arises in the first jhana, although it can arise in access concentration too, but not in a very strong way, but it does. So, access concentration, you could say, would also be considered to be the beginning of this factor of enlightenment. Actually, I stepped ahead a moment. The third factor of enlightenment is the energy. Now, you get the energy because of the investigation is what gives this energy, because it's sort of like a scientist. It's very much like a scientist who is doing an experiment, right? So if that scientist is getting insights, which the investigation gives rise to the insights, then that scientist will, want to continue. So that gives them the energy to, go on for hours, doing this research. So really the factors of enlightenment, investigation of Dhamma is research, meditation research. It means researching your mind and researching and being aware of, these different questions about how do these things arise, how do they cease, how do we develop them and bring them to development, and how do they finally cease altogether in terms of both negative mental factors as well as the positive mental factors. But in the 7 factors of enlightenment, it's understanding if they're there or they're not there. And if they're not there, how do we get them to arise? So if they're not there, check out the hindrances. Overcome the hindrance, or the 2 or 3 of them. That's the only way they're going to arise. So the investigation gives rise to that energy, and then it also gives rise to the joy. And that energy, a lot of people think, oh, that energy, no, there shouldn't be any energy. Concentration, they have the idea that concentration is so tranquil. There's no energy there. That's not true. There's a lot of energy, but it's focused and directed energy. It's not the scattered energy of our ordinary mind. So you experience this joy that comes from being concentrated and having that interest in the meditation. And this joy then, sustains the practice. And it also inhibits the hindrances of sloth and torpor or any of the other hindrances that may want to, be arising. So, and then that joy gives rise to the tranquility, and this tranquility is also a factor of the concentration, samadhi, or it's called passaddhi, so mental and physical tranquility. And so this is also, you can feel it as that piti in the sukha of the jhana factors. And that's again why it's called a factor of enlightenment, because you've reached that level of jhana where these jhana factors are arising as you are, practicing the vipassana, which is sometimes talked about by others saying, oh, you can't do that in a jhana and so on. And you can't practice, you have to come out of a jhana to practice vipassana. But this is some differences of opinion that, people have. And then the 5th of those enlightenment factors is the concentration itself, or the 6th one. So that, and that's when one probably, if one hadn't already been in at least the first jhana, by the time again concentration, it would be in the first jhana or probably the second jhana, where this concentration becomes very established. Because the next one is equanimity. The seventh factor of enlightenment is equanimity. And equanimity, again, if you're familiar with the jhanas, equanimity arises in the third jhana and the fourth jhana. So in order to attain this equanimity of the enlightenment factor, one should have the third jhana in order to get that equanimity along with the insight. And again, that's why it's called a factor of enlightenment, because of that strong concentration. So you can see that, you know, you're gaining concentration while you are, you know, practicing this mindfulness and this contemplation. And even in the discursive thinking, applied and sustained thought, thinking about the Dhamma is a factor of the first jhana too. And so even while you're using this kind of thinking, it's very concentrated because it's not being distracted by the hindrances. And then when you gain that the tranquility and the concentration, then you go beyond that. And when you attain the equanimity, that means by this time, the mind is totally detached from everything. Equanimity means the mind is no longer going out to any of the sensory impingements. And it's really grounded and centered very deeply in the present moment, but without being affected by anything that's coming and going around it. And by this time, the objects that are coming and going would have receded kind of back into the background. And, you know, pains and so on wouldn't be affecting the mind. And that total detachment and the sense of I also at this point will have become very, very faint. Because again, the whole time that you're contemplating these four foundations of mindfulness, the theme of the four foundations of mindfulness is anicca, dukkha, and anatta. That means the qualities of all these body, feelings, mind states, dhammas, the five aggregates, the six senses. Their three characteristics are anicca, dukkha, and anatta. And so you've been contemplating these already for so long. And by that time, the sense of, and then with the support of the jhanas and the overcoming of the hindrances, that sense of self then starts to get, starts fading away in the background until it's just a very kind of like a kind of a very small, a vague shadow that's there in the background, the sense of, you know, I'm meditating. And so, but again, that's a culmination of this combination of the concentration and the mindfulness and the wisdom that one has been already cultivating. And so that's why this contemplation of the seven factors of enlightenment, the Buddha didn't talk about that at the very beginning. Why? Because you didn't have any concentration at the beginning. You know, many months or years ago, right? So that's why it comes, these things have been given in a certain order. So now the next step is actually, you know, the contemplation of the Four Noble Truths itself. And I'm going to start discussing that actually next week, because it's a very long subject, and it actually the Four Noble Truths, the section on the Four Noble Truths is what distinguishes the Mahasatipatthana Sutta from the regular shorter Satipatthana Sutta that you find in the Majjhima Nikaya, number 10. So far, actually those two sutras have been synonymous, but it's this development of the 7 factors of enlightenment that is the culmination. And again, to really emphasize that, well, as the Buddha says here in the sutta, how does a monk abide contemplating Dhamma, and the Dhamma as the 7 factors of enlightenment? The enlightenment factor of mindfulness is present. The person knows that it is present. If the enlightenment factor of mindfulness is absent in himself, then he knows that it's absent. And how do you know it's absent? Because your mind would be confused, or it would be muddled, or you'd be having a lot of hindrances coming and going. That's how you know it's absent. Because if it wasn't absent, you would know it, because the mind would become very clear, and it would be able to see very clearly within the space of just a few seconds, many things arising and passing away. But that is due to the strength of the concentration and the weakening of the hindrances. Because the 5 hindrances are like a veil over the wisdom eye. And it's only when this curtain, that veil has started to be parted, when the hindrances subside, that you get this bright clarity of the mindfulness. And then the person knows, how does the unarisen enlightenment factor come to arise? So you have to know, how does it arise? By practicing harder. And by practicing the Eightfold Path. That means, because right concentration has to be supported by the other factors of the Eightfold Path that we'll talk about later in the next section, which is part of it. But it's knowing, how do they come to arise, and how do they come to the complete development, right? So you might have been developing mindfulness already, for a long time, but without that strength of concentration. So the mindfulness, it takes longer for those insights to arise. But you understand it's because of the improvement of the concentration that helps this enlightenment factor of mindfulness to arise. And how do you gain the concentration? By following the other steps of the Eightfold Path, because you go out partying, you go to entertainment, you do all these kind of things, you're not going to gain concentration, because it's very clear. So like following precepts and practicing the other aspects of the Eightfold Path. That's why these are the Eightfold Path, to be called right concentration, has to be supported by the other steps of the Eightfold Path, which are right understanding and right thought, right speech and right action. So he understands how the complete development comes about by, practicing over and over and over again, and strengthening concentration, strengthening the mindfulness, and up to that point of being able to remain in that jhanic level of awareness while you are contemplating. And while you're doing that, it goes from the first, second, third, up to the fourth jhana. So, and so that, that section is repeated for each of the enlightenment factors of investigation of states. How does that come to arise? How is it perfected? And again, it's the same answer over and over and over again. It's gaining more concentration, the ability to have let go of the hindrances, the ability to deal with them, to overcome them, and to gain that ever increasing state of concentration. And that means being able to keep the mind focused on the meditation and having that clarity to contemplate. So, and that is how one, and at the end of that section, again, he says, he contemplates these 7 factors of enlightenment internally, externally, both internally and externally. So when he sees them in himself, or he sees, somebody else meditating and so on, of course, he may not know exactly what they're experiencing, but still you can, if you see somebody, kind of nodding out like that in the corner of the meditation hall, you can probably fairly well assume that, that this person doesn't have enlightenment factor of mind, joy, and other things present. So again, these 7 factors of enlightenment, they're they come at the near the very end of the contemplation of mental objects, because that's only when you are going to actually be experiencing them. Okay, so I think now we might see if there's any questions in the chat room about this. This jhana that you gain in this birth moves to your next birth. You mean if you gain a jhana in this birth, are you going to be born and be able to attain the jhana when you're 1 or 2 years old? I doubt it. But it depends on how strong you did that, how much you've developed anything, whether it's a jhana or whether it's insights, or the affinity for meditation. The stronger that is at the time that you die, then of course, the better chance that you will have to pick it up in the next life. Now, we know the story of the Buddha's, when the Buddha was, the baby Prince Siddhartha, when he was 2 years old. It is said that when his parents were out at some festival, he crawled over to a tree and started meditating, and attained some jhana. Now that's because he'd been practicing for 500 lifetimes. Before that, he's been practicing meditation because, for over 500 lifetimes, he had been perfecting the paramitas. And even 500 lifetimes before, that means many, many thousands of years before, many lifetimes before, he'd already been meditating as an ascetic. So, yes, it's the stronger the habits, whatever habits that you have in this life, whether it's a good habits or bad habits, they may well follow you into the next life. Okay. Says, could you please develop a bit more on the similarity, if there's any, between Vidya Sambojjhanga and the right efforts of the Noble Eightfold Path? Well, there are similarities. The Vidya Sambojjhanga, now in the Noble Eightfold Path, it's called Samavayama, right efforts. But those right efforts are the effort to abandon unwholesome states and to keep them from arising in the future, and the effort to cultivate wholesome states that you may not have yet, and to bring them to perfection. So that's also what we are doing, in the Vidya Sambojjhanga Enlightenment factor. Although that's now at a very high level, because it's by that time you've overcome most of the hindrances, otherwise it wouldn't be a Vidya Sambojjhanga. And you would never come to that state by that time. So, but yes, they're similar. You're still perfecting, cultivating those wholesome states, which of course the Sambojjhangas, the factors of enlightenment, are extremely wholesome states. And until you've gained that concentration, there could still be some hindrances arising. So your mindfulness would be sharp enough to really zap it, with some wisdom, and so it's not going to derail your focus of concentration too much. So, yeah, a lot of the things that you read about, in the Noble Eightfold Path, even though so many of those factors, mindfulness, concentration, and those are steps of the Eightfold Path, and they're also enlightenment factors too. But again, they have been, highly developed by the time it could be called enlightenment factor. Okay, does anybody have any other questions? If you want to write a chat, or if you want to just, you could unmute yourself and ask a question.
Bhante, this is Dennis.
Oh, hi, Dennis.
Bhante, question. As we deepen our meditation and the mental objects, including the sense of self, fade and dissolve deeper into the background, we'll say, is there a point where we begin to transition or to go beyond the mind? Or are we still within the mind? And if we did go beyond the mind, then are we aware of it? I'm just thinking it from a transcendent standpoint. Thank you.
Well, I was going to probably get to that next week, because
Okay.
Equanimity brings you up to the precipice. Now, you can get up to the 7 factors of enlightenment. Equanimity is the very last stage. And if also the 5 spiritual faculties, which are faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom, are also sufficiently developed, which they probably would be by that time. If you stay in that equanimity long enough, where that sense of self is just a faint little shadow way in the background, and you just maintain that. And by this time, you're not thinking anymore. All your contemplation has been done. You know, when you get up to that point of equanimity, you know, no self is going to be predominant in your mind because that sense of self is going to be very faint. And it's just a matter of maintaining that long enough, and then it will flip. You know, there'll be a paradigm shift to the unconditioned, where you're going beyond the conditioned mind. And that's called entering the stream. So that equanimity of the formations is just maintained long enough. And by that time, you're not really you don't need to be doing any active contemplation. It's already been done. Otherwise, the equanimity wouldn't arise, at least in the insight practice. So, you know, you're just maintaining that enough. And if any, you know, thing arises, you would contemplate it, and just maintaining that long enough until your wisdom of no self is strong enough, and you may have that break with the conditioned mind. Then you would say you go beyond the conditioned mind, but I wouldn't say you go beyond the mind altogether. There's still some kind of consciousness there, but it's not the same kind of ego-dominated consciousness. But you know, that's what it's very difficult to explain that state in words. Does that help you any?
That helps a lot, Bhante. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, well, if there's no other questions, then we can take a short few minutes break and then come back and do some yoga stretches and then our meditation. Okay, we'll see you back in a few minutes. Okay, friends, we're just going to stand straight. Relax your shoulders, relax the arms and hands at the side. Just feel the feet pressing the floor. Try to feel the height and the weight of the body over the feet. Just know that you're standing, the body is standing. Then begin some deep, slow breathing. You know the 3-part breathing, drawing the air from the lower lung up through the middle to the upper part of the chest. Feel that expansion in the upper chest, holding the air in for 3 or 4 seconds if you can, and slowly breathing out. Try to feel the last bit of air go out of the lung. Try to take several more deep, slow breaths like that, thinking like this to yourself. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now we'll begin coordinating these movements with the same breathing. With the next in breath, raise the arms over the head, interlock the fingers, turn the palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back, and look up at the back of the hands. On the out breath, turn the palms down, touch the top of the head. The in breath, palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back, bend back a little bit. Out breath, touch the head. The third time, hold that upward. Stretch longer, bend back a little more. To the arch of the lower spine. Release the fingers, the out breath, arms back to the side. Relax. Keep the mind focused in the body. Don't let the mind wander into thought. Develop that enlightenment factor of mindfulness. Keeping the attention on the body. Letting go of your thought. On the next in breath, push up on the toes and raise the arms over the head in this way, facing the hands toward each other and stretch. Out breath, come back down, arms to the side, heels to the floor. In breath up, use the breath to help lift the body. Stretch. Out breath. In. Out. Relax. Keep feeling the body, the feet pressing the floor, hands at the side, the head balanced on top. Clothing touching the skin on different places. And feel those beginning of those piti sensations and pleasant, subtle body sensations, the subtle pulsing of the blood, tingling sensation. And next we'll do knee bending. On the in breath, again lift up on the toes, raise the arms up front for balance. On the out breath, bend the knees and lower down, balancing on the balls of the feet. Come down to squatting position if you can. And in breath, lift up. All the way up on the toes. Out breath. In. Out. In. The out breath, relax. Just keep feeling the body. Be aware of standing, standing. Next, we'll do side bending using one arm at a time. So on an in-breath, raise the left arm up and keep your fingers and arms straight close to the head. On the out breath, bend over the right side. And stretch in the side. In breath, lift up. In the same side, 2 more times. Out breath. In breath. Out. In. The out breath, lower that arm. Next in breath, the other arm. Out breath to the left. In. Out. Out breath, lower the arm. All right. Try to feel all those piti sambo jungle, subtle pleasant sensations. Feel that silent vibration, the knowing awareness. This is the mindfulness factor, enlightenment. Okay, now spread the legs apart, feet, at least 3 feet wider the better. And place the hands together at the chest. In breath, hands over the head. Out breath, hands to the chest, bend the knees, lower down, try to keep the back upright. Really stretching the hips and knees. In breath, all the way out. In. Out breath, relax. You feel the subtle, pleasing sensations, the activated life force. Also like the PT, subtle vibration, life force vibration, vibrating cell. Now hold the arms out to the side. We'll do the twisting from right to left. And breathe in. On the out breath, twist around to the right. Keep your eyes focused on the hand going back. In breath back to the front. Let the feet turn with the body and then to the other side with the out breath. In breath. Let's continue that alternating side with the breathing. And once more to each side. Out breath. Relax. Feel each foot pressing in the floor. Don't give the mind time to wander into thought. The body is always right here in front of you. Being able to hold the attention on in the body without mind wandering too much. It's the enlightenment factor of concentration. Feeling all the various sensations coming and going, thoughts coming and going. Enlightenment factor of mindfulness. The happiness in the mind, the joy. Okay, now we're going to do alternate toe touching. Again, hold the arms out. On an out breath, bring the left arm across and down to try to touch your right leg or the foot, if you can reach down that far. And look at your other hand over the head. Turn the head up to the right. Try to look at the hand over the head. On the in-breath, carefully come back up, the arms out to the side. The next out breath, the other side, right hand to the left leg or foot. Look up at the other hand. In-breath, come up. Again, out breath, left hand to the right leg or foot. In-breath. Out. In. On the third time, try to hold that position a little longer on each side. Come up. In-breath. And the other side. In-breath. Come up. Relax. Feel the whole body vibrating, pulsating. The activated life force. Helping to keep the mind grounded in the flow of present moment awareness, which is the enlightenment factor of mindfulness. And the mind is well grounded, centered in the present moment awareness. Letting go the flow of impermanence. Okay, now bring the legs back together. And standing straight, do head turning. On an in-breath, turn the head to the right. Try to look over your right shoulder, behind the right shoulder. The out breath, head 180 degrees back to the left, to look over the left shoulder. In breath to the right, concentrate into the neck vertebrae. And loosen it. In breath, right. And extend breath, let the head stop in the center. And just feel the whole body vibrating, pulsating. One last exercise, backward and forward bending. Turn the palms outward. Just be careful with the exercise. Don't bend back too far the first time. So when you can lift up from a back bend, you're aware of any rush of energy, dizziness. And the in-breath, gradually open the arms out to the sides as you bend back. In-breath, carefully lift up, keeping the arms out. Out-breath, lower the arms and hands down toward the floor. And keep the legs straight. Let the bones in the lower spine stretch out. And again, standing up, to the palms outward. Again, the in-breath, bend back, arms out to the side. Lift up, out breath. Once more. Out. The in-breath, and the hands together with the chest. The out-breath, hands back to the side. Feel the whole body and vibrating, pulsating. The activated life force filling the body with all these peaky sensations. We have the 7 factors of enlightenment, giving practicing yoga in this way. Mind is grounded in the present moment awareness. The tranquility, equanimity. Okay, let's come back to our seats. We're ready for the meditation. You just get comfortable in your meditation seat, posture. So you keep the spine and the back of the head in a straight line. Keep the chin lifted up level with the floor. And just gently close the eyes and focus your attention where the buttocks and feet press the floor underneath. Feel that solid grounding to the floor, earth element vibration. Try to feel when right and left buttock pressing the floor. Feel how the legs are bent underneath. Feel the feet and toes. You feel the subtle pulsing of blood or other subtle sensations in your feet and toes. Also just remember that the body is sitting. Now feel your hands and fingers touching. They touch your legs or touch each other. And feel the outline of your thumbs or fingers, the subtle sensation. Subtle sensations you might feel in your hands, and like peaky sensation. The ability to feel that is a deep level of awareness and concentration. And feel the weight of the arms hanging from the shoulders. Relax the shoulders. And feel where the clothing touches the skin, shoulders, chest, or arms. The ability to keep the mind focused in the body, feeling these different body parts and sensations, both the factor of concentration and the factor of mindfulness. Concentration is keeping the mind in the body. Mindfulness is feeling the different sensations, alert for the errant thought. And now move the attention to feel your head balanced on top. And just feel your face. And imagine you feel the skin stretched over the front of the skull. Feel the forehead, the nose, the eyelid, the lip, chin. Feel the subtle sensations in your lip. The upper lip touches the lower lip. And feel the tongue laying in the mouth. The tongue may touch your teeth. Be aware of any urge to want to swallow. Now rest the attention just behind the eyes. Feel the eyes and the socket. And the eyelids stretched over the eyeball. It's like just watching the eyes with the eye of awareness, with the eye of concentrated awareness. Concentrated or focused awareness is like the eye of a camera, the inner eye. Sort of feel the subtle eye movement, the pulse of blood and the capillaries of the eyes or eyelid. You might see some light or color or a mental image. Just be aware of sitting, present moment awareness, centered in this breathing body. And just open up that lens of awareness to feel the outline of the sitting body, the head on top, The shoulders, arms, hands, chest, legs, buttocks, and feet underneath. Should just be able to hold that outline of the body in the mind's eye. Eye of concentrated awareness. Now begin taking some deep, slow breaths, oxygenate the cells of the body. Start. Take a few seconds to expand the abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest, like we did in the yoga. Hold the air in the lungs a few seconds to feel this piti sensation. Feel the concentrated awareness. You feel a relaxing contraction in the out breath. You feel the last bit of air go out of the lungs. You feel this brief pause and then the next in breath. Just try to take several deep, slow breaths like that. Developing this basic mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Just take several more deep, slow breaths, developing that awareness. Just breathing body. Try to feel those 4 phases of the breath cycle. Expanding sensations of the in-breath, and the short pause, and the contracting sensations of the out-breath, feeling the last bit of air go out of the lungs, and the brief pause, and the next in-breath. When you get tired of deep breathing, in the next out breath, let the breathing alone. Don't control it any longer. Just let the breathing return to its own uncontrolled, shorter, irregular rhythm. but continue to feel. Keep your concentrated awareness focused on the center of the body. Feel the subtler movements of expanding and contracting. Try to feel where the clothing rubs against the skin of the belly, rib cage, or chest. As it expands and contracts. That's how you feel the breathing easiest. Just knowing when the breath is coming in and knowing when the breath is going out. You know it by feeling. It's the material vibration, the perception, the memory. It's the breathing. It's cultivating this continuous present moment awareness. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Develop this applied and sustained thought awareness, sitting and breathing. Just letting various thoughts and sound, other sensations kind of just come and go. And just breathing body awareness. If you really have a good awareness, just breathing body, various sensations coming and going, and developing mindfulness factor, enlightenment, and also developing the factor of concentration. You can investigate this body as the five aggregates. What is this body-mind experience? Material vibration, pleasant, painful, neutral feeling, perception, urging, thought, desire, ego consciousness, sense of I. They're continually changing. You can contemplate the stream of sensory impingements through the senses, especially the body senses, sensation, sound sensation. Noticing the thoughts, mental state. Keeping the mind awake moment by moment, tuning into the flow of impermanence, while staying grounded in the body. How does this factor of mindfulness arise through sustained concentration, centeredness, the flow of awareness? The mind is free from any drowsiness or being lost in thought. It's the factor of video, enlightenment factor of energy. The energy to sustain moment to moment attention without getting lost. And the joy and happiness one experiences, the clear moment to moment attention, free from drowsiness. Or other hindrances. Just observing that continuous flow of impermanence of the five aggregates, six senses, understanding how suffering arises, try to cling and hold on, anything coming through the senses. The mind is just riding the wave of impermanence from moment to moment without grasping, without rejecting. You understand the ending of suffering, the rising of joy and happiness. Mind becomes very concentrated. The sense of I, me, your mind might begin to fade away out of the mind and get very light or faint due to the non-grasping, due to the concentrated awareness in the present moment. You can sense that equanimity in the nervous system, even pains or other distractions, not touching that peaceful awareness. And the awareness is established. There is this body and mind, these five aggregates, these six senses, but just for the purpose of gaining detached awareness and understanding, not grasping for anything in the world. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Sensations come and go. Pleasant or painful sensations come and go. Perceptions, thoughts, desires, reactions come and go. Thoughts of I, me, your mind come and go. These are all just continuous flow, the five aggregates of impermanence, the six senses, the body and mind. Just underneath all of that impermanence and change, mental darkness and chaos, the parallel dimension of the deathless state, the present moment, liberated awareness. It's always there as a potential to be tapped into. You know the right way, cultivating the 7 factors of enlightenment, 4 foundations of mindfulness. Sambi Sankara Anichati. Sambi Sankara Dukkati. Sambi Dhamma Anattati. Yada Panyaya Pasati. Atanibindati Dukhi. Yesamago Visuddhiyam. All conditioned things, the five aggregates of this body, mind, and world are impermanent. They arise only to last briefly and vanish. And all impermanent things have tightly clung to with ignorance, bring suffering. And all conditioned dhammas, as well as the unconditioned deathless state, are without any owner or control. They're not self. When one understands these three characteristics with the eye of wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to purity, to freedom. And thus spoke the Buddha. Now, place your hands at the edge of the knees and take one more deep, slow breath. As you're breathing in, stretch the head back, pull against the knees to arch your lower spine. And the in-breath, lift the head up, and the out-breath, press the chin to the top of the chest to stretch the neck vertebrae. And lift the chin up level. In-breath, relax on the out-breath. Now, if you like, you can join in chanting the word sadhu 3 times slowly. Sadhu. Sadhu. Take one more deep, slow breath. On the out breath, relax. Put a smile on your face. Okay, friends. So thank you all for joining in this evening's program. And hope you had a good or insightful meditation. to keep cultivating the four foundations of mindfulness in your daily life. Practice the M&Ms, continuing to cultivate those factors of enlightenment. Okay, so again, for those who might be, wanting to tune in on Sunday. Sunday I'm giving a retreat, but I'll still be giving the 2 o'clock Dhamma talk. Is the last talk of the retreat, and doing that over the Zoom, the normal Sunday Zoom link from the Lang Wisdom. Okay, so we'll see you again. Don't forget, mindfulness a day keeps dukkha away. Sutta a day keeps delusion away. Namo Buddhaya.
Namo
Thank you,
Buddhaya.
Bhante. Thank you,
Thank you,
Bhante.
Bhante.
Thank you,
Sadhu.
Bhante.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
Good
night,
night,
Bhante.
all.
Good night, Bhante. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Frank. Good night.
And you're always welcome in my heart.